right, what's up? What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the Feel Your Feelings podcast. I'm your host, Victoria Macanjuola, and today I am joined by Francisco, aka Frankly Francisco, and he is a podcaster whom I follow on Instagram. And his podcast is an open platform, so he interviews people from all walks of life, musicians, influencers, you name it, and just to chat with them and have an open conversation with them. Francisco, thank you for joining me. How are you feeling
Hey,
today?
I'm great, Victoria. It's good to be on the show. We had a group meeting before with Positive Gains, and we went over a
Yeah,
lot of stuff. We talked about stuff, and I wanted to come on your show, have a good conversation with you, and you know, we're two different generations, but I still believe we can discuss, have conversations without going back and forth in an angrily way. I think that's what's missing right now with people. They just don't know how to hold conversations.
that's right.
It gets to the point where it's mudslinging. It shouldn't be that way.
That's right. Gen X, Gen Z,
Hmm.
right? And shout
Yeah.
out to shout out to Mr. Mike Gaines. He hosted a podcast workshop, virtual podcast workshop, and we had the opportunity to meet on there and chat. And it was a fantastic workshop, which I took away a lot of um, good gems from both you and from Mr. Mike. So shout out to the Positive Gains podcast. Just connecting with other podcasters in general has been a really good challenge for me personally because other podcasters have a sort of like a knowing and a way to like bring out the best in you, kind of like in this moment right now. So
Hmm.
I really appreciate that and the hustle that you have and that you bring to your podcast as well. So can you tell me a little bit more about your podcast, Frankly Francisco, and how you choose certain people to be on there? Like what draws you to certain people to want to bring them on your show?
So, believe it or not, my podcast was supposed to be originally be a magazine. Okay, I was going to
Okay.
interview people. It was going to be a magazine. It was going to be, we were going to try to get people to come on, tell their stories. But then it gets hard to do a magazine because there's so much that goes into it. I've been a talker my whole life since I was a kid. You know what I mean? I was going to be a preacher when I was younger, and decided to not do that because it wasn't my calling at the time. So I know that's my gift. My gift is gab. I can talk to anybody. It annoys my wife sometimes, but I can have an entire conversation with a stranger and know their whole life story by the time we get done. That's not a gift everybody has. So
Right.
I decided to do it on a podcast, and the people that I look for generally are just people who have stories. Everybody has a story, just not everybody is not allowed to tell their story. And I want people to be able to be upfront and open and tell their story. So that's how it started. We started off slow, started interviewing some friends, and I wasn't comfortable doing solo podcasts for a while. Now I am. I just didn't, I always like being around people and talking to people. So that's how it got started. And now it's, I got people writing me, telling me to come on. They want to come on the show, but I was off the air for a couple of months because of some personal issues I was dealing with and new work requirements that pulled me away. But just did an episode yesterday, and we're back on the air, and I'm on the air with you right now. So we're
That's
back
awesome.
at it.
That's awesome. Like, I love that you like talking to people and getting to know them just from a brief like conversation with them. For me, I feel like I have to have multiple conversations with people in order to really get to know them. Um, and like going back to the generation gap, which is something I'm curious to talk to you about, being from Gen X and then me being from Gen Z, is like
Hmm.
how you view my generation. I'm 25, and Gen Z, at least in my view, is born, well, if you Google it too, is born from the years between 1997 and 2012 is
Hmm.
considered Generation Z. So how do you view us as Gen Zers? What are like maybe three words that come to mind?
Technologically sound. Okay, you're the generation of technology, real technology, of
Mm-hmm.
innovation, of change, and you're also a hard-headed generation because now you are making this generation is making their way to say, no, I'm not going to work like this. I'm not going to kill myself like this in the workplace.
That is
You
true.
Gen Z wants a bigger work-life balance,
Yes.
which is phenomenal because I'm still in that generation where if I'm not working, I feel like something's wrong. If I'm not, keeping busy with work, I feel like something's wrong. one of the big differences between us is your generation knows your value right now. You know what you're worth, and you know that you're not going to put up with this nonsense that corporate America has been shoving down people's throats for, the last umpteen years. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Even if it's at our own expense, because some of us will not put up, like you said, we won't put up with any workplace politics or workplace drama, even if that means us losing our jobs and not having anything else to fall back on, which your generation may consider silly or crazy or just not, that's not smart of you. I think we realize that, of course, but what's worse, like staying in a job that you have no growth potential in, you have no opportunities in, you have no celebration in, or picking a path that's harder, but you're in control of your own lifestyle. And you would rather choose the struggle than to struggle against something that's not working for you in the first place, you know?
Well, I learned that lesson. Well. I used to do security for a living. That's what I went to school for. Okay. I did it for 12 years. I was good at it. I was a supervisor. I was making good money, but there's a glass ceiling you can't get past.
Yeah.
And luckily for me, I was working the banks as a security supervisor, and I got my foot in the door by talking to the district manager and told him, listen, you give me the opportunity, I will work my behind off for you and I'll be better than everybody else. I just need that chance. And luckily for me, I speak Spanish. I'm Hispanic. They needed that in the branches, and I got my opportunity. So I tell people all the time, it's not what you know, it's who you know. There's going to be people, you have to build relationships. And it doesn't matter if it's just work relationships, because of the impressions you leave on people, those impressions will come back. Yeah, I know that guy. He's a good guy. He's a hard worker. So those are the type of things that I think Gen Z needs to work on a little bit more. I get it. Listen, if I was in this generation too, I'd probably be like, hey man, I'll be free flowing too. I'm not putting up with this, but I have kids, I have a wife, I have responsibility, I have mortgage, car payments. I can't do that. You know what I mean? It's just not in me. It's one of the struggles that I think my generation has a lot, that we don't know how to do that work-life balance thing right. And the older I get, the more and more I'm trending towards work-life balance, because I'm not going to kill myself by 50.
Yeah. That's facts too. I definitely see where you're coming from. And I've struggled against some people in your generation's former bosses, if we're being transparent, who stated that they had to struggle and sleep on people's couches and live that lifestyle. And why can't I? I should do the same. And I struggled against that mindset because I'm like, okay, well, first of all, you're a man and you're not in my generation, and there's certain things that maybe you could have handled that maybe I can't handle, and I know my limits. But going back to that is like, I was watching this movie, sorry, sidetrack, but she was like, I know my limits in terms of being a professional and whatnot. And another character is like, well, why are you limiting yourself? Don't limit yourself. So I kind of see both sides of the spectrum, where it's like, okay, well, you're putting limits on yourself to what you can and can't do. So why are you like, don't limit yourself at all. But yeah, that's kind of what frustrates me about Gen X is that it's like, you tell us what we should do, and it's like, yeah, but this is like my life, and like, let me figure it out the way I want to. So that's a struggle that I'm still, I guess, working through. But going back to your podcast, you had posted something on your Instagram, a quote that I saw that I really liked, and it was like, "Don't let the internet rush you / fool you. You don't know what people are really going through," or something to that extent. Um, why did you post that, and what are your thoughts about that quote? Because I have a few thoughts.
So this is going to be a two-parter. So the first part, we're going to backtrack to what you said about Gen X and Gen Z. They should never tell you what you should and shouldn't be doing. Okay. Everybody knows what their limitations are. Okay. Everybody knows what their limitations are. When they say don't put any limits on you, no, you have to put realistic, and you have to have realistic expectations. A dream is a dream. Okay. And so that dream manifests into something real. You have to put expectations on what you're doing. Don't just go off and think that this is going to be something that's going to take off for you. It may not happen for you. Always have a backup plan. And I think that's the difference between my generation and Gen Z is a lot of times you guys don't have a backup plan. You have to find that happy medium. Okay. You can be gung ho, look for what you want, fight for it. Fight for that dream that you're looking to fight for, but have something you can fall back on. I think once we find that medium, I think it's gonna, close the gap a little bit more. I think that's the frustration with our generation and Gen Z generation, because the responsibility level is not as high as ours is right now because we're older. And
Right,
for me to tell
right,
you that it's crazy. Of course it is. We have more responsibility than Gen Zers do right now at this point, because we are carrying our kids still. Like my oldest son is only 16 years old. He's working now. Like I have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go drop him off on days that I'm off that I should be resting, because
right,
that's just who I am.
right.
But I think once you find that happy medium, it's going to make things a whole lot easier for your generation to pursue your dreams, but do it in such a way where you know what your limitation is. People would love to say, hey, sky's the limit. Is it really? Because a lot of times that's not how it's happened. There's going to be things that get in your way, obstacles that you have to find a way around. And I tell everybody time, when a door closes, kick a window in, find your way in there. Don't allow yourself to sit back. If it's not working one way, you can always change your career. I changed my career. Look what I went from. I went from doing private security to working at a top 5 bank in the country. This is a kid that came from the ghetto. I have no degree, and I'm doing what I'm doing now with people who have master's degree like yourself. And I think it's a drive. The drive is a little bit different. Your drive is you want to be successful in media. You got your
Yeah,
education in media. You are more knowledgeable in media than I am because you went to school for it. But sometimes we can be the brightest person in the world. Doesn't mean those doors are going to open for us.
right,
Now, the second thing about the podcast, the reason I put that quote up there is because what you see on the internet is not real. It's not real. People have this misconception. When you see somebody with a Louis bag, it's a knockoff. When you see somebody on vacation, people have shown behind the scenes footage of all this stuff. None of this
right,
stuff is real. None of it. None of
right,
it is fake. People want to put up that they want their 15 minutes of fame. And how do you do that? You stage it. You stage your 15 minutes. That's how you grab the attention. It's not real. These guys are still living in 1-bedroom shacks, but they're so good with technology. Again, Gen Z in the technology. They're so good with the technology that they can put up these videos that look immaculate. None of it is real.
right.
And I think that's the advantage of the younger
Unfortunately.
generation being able to get that exposure that somebody like me, who's in the older generation, is harder to come by.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all facts and true. I was watching an Instagram live from Kiki Palmer, who I look up to, and she's a millennial, and she talked about how people are comparing themselves to her in her career. And she was just basically saying, like, why compare yourself to me when I had a 20-year head start from you? So your step one is like my step 20, basically. So it's like it's not realistic to compare your now to my then, or my your then to my now. So she definitely has a point, and I think comparison is a big component on the whole. Don't let the internet fool you with the Louis bags and people shopping in Spain and whatnot. It can all be an illusion. It's not real. And I think that's something that I'm aware of, but I also need to work on more, because it's not going to go away. People are still going to show off. People are still going to edit and make illusions out of their vacations and things like that. So I see it, but it doesn't mean I have to, buy into it like you're saying.
Mhm.
So that's a good point. And thank you for sharing that quote, because I really did it really did speak to me. Um so how would you encourage our generation then? Because I feel like there might be a little bit of there is a lot of anxiety surrounding that, if we feel like we're not where we need to be, or where we are, and things I've felt personally is like not feeling like I'm doing enough. How would you how would you encourage a 25-year-old who's in my position?
That is a generational curse. And I can tell you it's generational because every single generation has felt what you felt the anxiety of not doing enough, felt that they haven't achieved what they needed to achieve. This ain't the 40s and the 50s where you can retire at, 40 years old after doing 20 years at the Ford plant. It doesn't work that way now. They took away
Right.
pensions. We got 401ks with the market going up and down. that pressure's on me as well. I'm 40, I'm going to be 44, and I'm still feeling like I haven't accomplished everything I need to accomplish. I'm not even
Wow.
close. Those, and the internet doesn't help. You know, the internet is poison for the mind sometimes. That's another reason why I took a break from social media for the last 3 months, because it's poison. It's poison. You can't have a conversation without being called a sexist, without being called a transphobic person. You can't have an opinion. You know what I mean? You can't. You say the wrong thing, they're going to cancel you. You know, accusations are made against you, even if they're not true, it ruins your career. You have to walk on eggshells now. We didn't have to walk on eggshells when I was younger. It didn't work that way. People could hold conversations. You didn't get along with everybody, but at least you could have that conversation. Now, if you're talking to somebody online and you say the wrong thing, all of a sudden everybody's offended.
You could get
That puts
doxxed. You can get
right,
doxxed. You could get profiled, hate
right.
crime, swatted, whatever they call it, like all that kind of stuff to be aware of.
So we have to be extremely careful on the verbiage
Yeah.
that we use when we're talking to
Yeah.
people. And look, I don't see anything wrong with that. Listen, if you want to be called whatever you want to be called, you want your pronoun, I will call you your pronouns. You want to live free, live free. If you want to act like a cat or a dog, by all means, go out and live like a cat and a dog. I don't care about that. What I want is not to be put into a category because, you know, I think it's might not be the best option in the world to live your life as a dog when you have to support yourself, because who's going to support you? You know what I mean? There are certain things that we can't have conversations about that we used to. And the undue pressure that it puts on Gen Z is, I don't let my son on the internet. My oldest, he has a flip daddy.
And
He has
how
a
old is
flip
your
phone,
oldest son?
16.
16. Okay.
I don't let him get on.
I didn't get my first phone until I was like 17.
Well, he has his computer that he uses at school, and all he does is go on YouTube all day long in school. You can't
Yeah.
stop it now. We didn't have that in school. We didn't have that problem. But like I said, these kids have computers in their hands at a young age. But it puts undue pressure. You see body shaming on both sides, men and women. You know what I mean? If you have kids who are unaliving themselves because of the undue pressure of something that happened on the net, you have these silly challenges that these kids are doing on TikTok that are causing them to unalive themselves by accident. Man, there's so much stuff that it creates an issue for the younger generation where they feel like they have to keep up. It's FOMO, fear of missing out. But what are you missing out on? Really, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. What are we missing out on? I'm thinking about two people in particular that really unfortunately inspired me to keep doing what I'm doing with the mental health thing on my podcast. So Chesley Christ and DJ Twitch. So are you familiar with them?
I'm not.
So Chesley Christ was a Miss USA in 2019, and she died by suicide January of 2022.
Oh,
DJ Twitch,
DJ. I remember him.
Ellen's DJ,
Yeah, yeah,
also
yeah.
died by suicide last December in 2022, and their deaths were like, they're not Gen Zers. I would say they're either millennial or Gen X, like yourself,
Mhm.
and just beautiful spirits, beautiful people. I looked up to Chesley. She worked as a news entertainment correspondent at Extra, and DJ Twitch. I used to watch. Is it still on? No, it's not still on, the Ellen Show.
No, it's
Um,
off. Yeah.
but I would watch him on Ellen, turning on the TV sometimes and seeing him dancing and getting the crowd hype and everything, and his smile, his beautiful family, and then seeing what happened to them on the news, tragically. I'm like, what's happening? Did you have a reaction to what happened to them, and like, what are your thoughts on them? They're not for my generation, but why do you think we're seeing these tragedies happening to people that, first of all, my generation looks up to, and people who on the outside seem to have it all together, and then still die tragically like that?
Well, with Miss the young lady, I don't know much about her, but I know the DJ because he posted a video that day before he unalived himself. So I do remember that he was smiling and singing and all that. But people don't understand, fame doesn't bring you happiness. Fame doesn't complete you as a person. There are still pieces of you that might be missing. I can sit here and smile at you all day long. You know why? Because I know how to mask that. Some people, they can only mask it so long. I don't know if you remember Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
unalived himself because of
yeah.
depression. He's an older generation than me.
Loved his show. Whew.
So people don't know what lies beneath what what kind of suffering a person's going through. They don't understand it. And in this world, more men take their lives actually than women do because of the undue pressures that we feel. You know, because we're supposed to be providers and protectors and things of those, in that nature, and we're supposed to be able to take care of the family. Sometimes that pressure gets too much, and some men don't know how to deal with that pressure. And I think we have to find what the underlying problem is, you know, and at the forefront of this stuff, mental health is one of the most important things for us right now. When I was a kid, mental health, get over it, be toughen up, be a man. You know what I mean?
Go wash the
Now,
dishes.
wash the dishes, right?
That's the thing on
Now,
the Instagram.
but
Anyway.
now we have to make sure that our kids understand that we're there for them no matter what.
Yeah.
If they're not happy, come talk to us. And I know a lot of kids don't want to open up, but the media has a lot to do with it. The media has a lot to do why these kids are feeling ashamed of themselves, or they're feeling like something's wrong, or they don't add up. Cyberbullying is at an all-time high. People are unaliving themselves because of that. And it's an underlying issue that we continue need to address, because it's going to keep happening. The internet's not going anywhere. It's not, you know what I mean? Once something goes up, it goes up forever. You can scrub it as much as you want to from the internet. Somebody's going to find it, or somebody's already downloaded it and they're going to upload it again.
Yeah.
So it's all about, I think, all about finding balance within yourself. Fame doesn't make you happy. Being rich doesn't make you happy. The money should act as a tool for you to accomplish certain things that you want to accomplish, but the happiness and the fulfillment doesn't come from that money. It's a stepping stone for you to use to find your happiness doing what fulfills you as a person. And there was something missing from him, you know, and we'll never know what it was.
Yeah.
You'll never know what because some people don't leave notes. Some people do. Some people feel like they're not being listened to. And that's a hard thing sometimes.
Yeah, totally. My heart goes out to their families and their loved ones. And just a major reason why I feel like mental health is it's not a game, it's not a trend. Like, this is real. These are real lives. So yeah. So going back to the fame thing, I know you interview a lot of famous people. I've seen famous comedians on your podcast come through, some other people with lots of followings and the blue check. Okay. So who have been some of your favorite people to interview so far on your platform?
So I can give you 3 names off the top of my head. The first one is Martinez Got Jokes. He's big on Twitter. He's got
I saw the clip. I saw the clip.
Yeah, he's one of the most down-to-earth guys you will ever meet. And people don't understand, like, you know, what he does is his voice is not the voice he uses in real life. And people don't know how to make that distinction. He's a comedian. He likes to, you know, he has dreams and ambition like everybody else, but people don't see the struggle behind that. People don't understand comedians have a lot of pain in their life. That's what leads them to be comedians. Robin Williams.
I mean, Robin Williams. Robin Williams.
So he was a great interview, great guy. You know, he has a YouTube channel now that he's building up to. But yeah, man, he's fantastic. He's great. He's satire. He has a lot of satire that he does as well. I have the other guy that it was Flat Earth Dave. This guy, you know, he's one of the biggest Flat Earth personas out there. He was one of my biggest interviews. I got the most views I've ever had on YouTube, over 2,000 views because of him. He has a lot to say, and you know, it's a back and forth back and forth.
Oh, like he really believes the earth is flat.
Yeah, 100%. The guy, he truly believes the earth is flat.
Were you and him arguing, or you
No, see, I don't do that. So that's the thing with me. If your opinion differs from mine, I'm gonna ask you about it. I'm not going to make fun of you. I'm going to let you talk. I'm going to let you be who you are.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I want to learn from you. I may not agree with you, but I'm going to listen to your point of view. And I think I make people comfortable. That's why they're able to come on the show, and the conversations are able to feel good.
You make them feel comfortable, but you don't make them feel like they're crazy.
No, never. Because I listen, who am I to judge you?
Yeah.
Who am I to judge you? Everybody has skeletons. Everybody's done crazy things in their life. I can't judge anybody by what they do. Listen, you live your life the way you want to live your life. If you have a story to tell, come on the show. I'll tell you about it. And then my favorite, I can't even lie about this. My favorite all-time interview is James Blick. He is from the Spain Revealed channel. He is from New Zealand, but he lives in Spain with his wife and his kid now. This gentleman is awesome. One of the best interviews I've ever had. he didn't have to schedule time for me. He didn't have to have me on the show. I ran him down. Like I emailed him, I reached out to him, and he was kind enough to respond. He's like, listen, I'm traveling, I'm doing this in a couple of months. Hit me back up. Hit him back up in a couple of months and got him on the show. Spain time is different than ours. I had to get on at like 10 o'clock in the morning because it was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon for him
Right,
in
right.
Madrid. We had a great conversation. It was a good flow. And the guy's YouTube famous. The guy has his channel. He's doing well, but he took the time to interview me. And I think sometimes that gets lost because you have people who are bigger than you that feel they don't need to talk to you because you're a smaller channel or you don't have as many followers as they do. But he was the most humble guy, man, humble and most respectful guy. And he has a follower forever because I I watch every time he puts out a video, you know what I mean? You know, his post when he comes out, he was such a great interview. That's the kind of people that I want on the show. I listen, if you have your ego can't fit through the door, I don't need you on the show because that's not what it's about. I want to
Ooh,
have conversations.
two questions there, two questions from there. So how can you tell if someone has a big ego that you just can't handle on your
So
show?
when I write them, I don't get a response and they just leave me on red, knowing that they read it. That's different. Or when you're having a conversation with them and they want things done a certain way, and that's not how I do things. You're coming on my show. I understand that you're this and that but you're not on your channel. You're on my channel. And I want to have a free flowing conversations. I'm never going to say if you listened, if you watched and heard, I don't cuss on my show. If I do, it's rare, super rare. I let people cuss because if that's how they want to express them,
Right,
by all
right,
means.
right.
I don't cuss on the show. I'm very respectful. I'm very professional. I've had guests tell me and ask me if I had a journalism degree. I kid you not. Like because of the way the
Yeah.
interview.
So I mean, if I'm just sitting, I look like listen to you for the first time, I'd be like, man, he had a whole radio show. He has radio experience. He's a pro. Like seriously, you do have the radio
But
vibe.
I would that's one of the things I would love to do. I would love to be on a channel like NPR. I would love to be
That
on
so
radio talking to
that's
people.
my second half of the question. Second question for you is if you were to manifest maybe a dream guest or some dream guests that you would like to talk to, um who would they be? And well, you kind of answered it separately, is like maybe what would you want to get into more aside from maybe the podcast that you already have, or if you would like to take it up a notch and make it into another level, like what would you envision for yourself for your platform?
So for me, it's always been I've always wanted to be in entertainment since I was a kid. You know, I did a modeling thing when I was younger and
Okay.
that didn't work. I wanted to be on TV and
Yeah.
movies and then I figured it's not going to happen. So I can still hold conversations with people. I love speaking to people. So I would love to elevate my show. I would love to have, my YouTube channel to where it's at, where I can make money off of it, where I can get guests that are coming in, when they want to come in, but it's hard to do that. So the celebrity thing to me is worn out. Everybody wants to interview a celebrity. There's a difference between A-listers, B-listers. To me, if you're doing well and you're successful and you feel like you've achieved something, come on the show. I'm not gonna run down, certain people like Dwayne Johnson. And I wrote him actually a couple times and he's liked the message, even though I don't think he runs his own platform. You know what I mean? I think it's run by somebody else.
Managers.
I've
Mhm.
managers. I tried out to reaching out to Mr. Beast to try to get an interview from him, but Jimmy's always busy and he never even responded. So it's not like I haven't tried to reach out to people to have, but sometimes they don't want to deal with smaller podcasters. They don't want to deal with somebody who's not on the level that they're at, which to me is a shame because they got their start and somebody gave them a chance to build. And that's all I think that's all anybody's asking for.
Whoa, that's well, before I share my perspective, like, so who would be some of your dream guests that you would want to have? If like I know you said like you would maybe not reach out to the celebrities or the bigger people, but like if there was a genie that would be like I three that you could ask for like three dream people that you would love to have on your show, like anybody, doesn't matter if they're celebrity or whatever, like who would they be?
So for one, it would be Dwayne The Rock Johnson because I've been following him since his wrestling days. The guy's done so much, and he gets a bad rap right now because of a lot of the stuff that's floating around. But the guy's a phenomenal father. I mean, he's a great dad. He has his own business, and yes, sometimes ego can get in the way and get you in trouble. But I believe I think he'd be a great interview because he's got positive energy all the time. Shaquille O'Neal, would be the second one.
Okay.
Love Shaquille O'Neal. He does so much for the
Great
kids.
energy too.
Great
Great energy.
energy. He
Yeah.
does so much for the kids. He manifests things for people. He helps people out. You know, he's a grown man too, and he has his issues, but I mean, the kid he loves helping people who can't help. He'll go into Walmart and pay for 15 people's groceries in line, just handing their credit card. You don't got
I
people that
think
do that
he's
all the
starting
time.
a restaurant chain here in Dallas too, like a chicken chain, I think,
Nice.
from what I've heard. So I would love to support.
And then, believe it or not, the one person I would like to talk to is Brie Larson. And the reason I say
Mm.
Brie Larson is
Mhm.
because I'm not talking about the Marvels or the Miss Marvel. I'm
Yeah,
talking about,
that's what I'm thinking of.
yeah, no, her artsy work. I'm talking about, she did a movie called Room. She did another called The Glass Castle. These are all based on books. Okay. Phenomenal actress. And she chose those roles. Even, those roles are not $1 million movies that get attention like it should, but her acting is so
Like
good in
indie
these
films.
movies, indie films,
Yeah,
yeah, and she
yeah.
has such range, all the way from Scott Pilgrim versus the World to what she's doing. You know what I mean? It's amazing the range that she has, and I would love to have a conversation. She seems like she's down to earth, um, and people give her a bad rap as well, which I don't
Yeah.
understand why. But those are the three. There's two more. I would only want to, top five that I would do, but those are my three
The
right
three,
now.
yeah, the three is good. For me, I would say going back to the celebrity thing, there's, at least for me, and I think this is where the generation gap is, like,
Mhm.
yeah, we see them everywhere on all podcasts and platforms and infiltrating us, and it's kind of overrated sometimes, but their opinion is still valid. There's different interviewers and interviews that people that I look up to have done that has bringing out a different part of them that I'm like, oh man, I didn't know she was like this, or I didn't know she felt like that, or I know she does this like me. Like, I feel like it all depends on the vibe and the style of the interview. For me, I strive to be a podcaster that does that for people. For if it's an artist that I like, that I bring out like a different side of them. So I asked you your dream guest, so I'll tell you my dream guest too, if you would indulge me.
Yeah, yeah.
Halle Bailey, who played the Little Mermaid. I
Mhm.
would love to chat with her. She's such like a sunshiny personality and just a pure soul, I think. And all her interviews, I feel like she's been so consistent. I would love to see maybe like a different side of her. Not like a bad side, but it's like, Hallie, like,
But maybe
what's the
maybe that's
real?
who she is. Maybe that's who she
Yeah,
is,
it's
though.
like, do you ever be sad though? Like when you're sad, like what, do you be crying? Like what you like? No, just getting like a certain side of that person. Jamal Murray, who recently the Denver
Won a
Nuggets
championship. Yep.
guard
Hmm.
championship. Would love to chat. He's 26 years old. I would love to chat with him about how he feels now that he's a champion, and is being a champion, is there a weight there, or is it like I'm gonna use this pressure to go get another championship, or is it like, oh, I have a championship, I'm gonna relax? I want to know about that. And
Yeah.
then also, there's a TV show that I watch called Manifest with the plane, Flight 828. It's on Netflix.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. I heard about that. Yeah.
Whew, I'm one episode away from the finale, and one of the main characters, I don't know his name in real life. I think his name is Ty Duran, I think, but he plays Cal on the show, and he did a fantastic job as older Cal, his character in the series. So I would love to chat with him about being an actor, going into acting. I was also interested in acting as a kid. Like, I want to be on TV and modeling and whatnot. And I recently actually completed like a 30-week modeling and talent program.
Nice.
Um, thank you. In July. So I started in July of 2022, graduated in February of this year. And so I'm officially signed to an agency. So
That's awesome.
little me would be like, yes, oh my gosh. But it's like things don't just come to you, right? It's like I have to
Mm.
be the one to still like put myself out there and reach out to this agent that I have and everything. It's like more work. So I can kind of feel like the pressure, like it's not easy. So I would love to like know more about, like, how'd you get into acting? Like, what's it like? And are you into, like, is this your passion? Those kind of things interest me for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
you should
yeah.
always have passion projects. Always.
Yeah, and having a side hustle too. Like, what are people's side hustles besides their main gig? Which is a whole nother conversation, which we'll have to have at another date. But that's that's I think all the questions I wanted to ask you for this particular episode. Thank you for your patience and listening to me as a Gen Zer, and also listening to my frustrations about your generation as a Gen X. So I'm interested to hear the feedback that this episode gets and everything. But where can my listeners in particular find more about you, find out more about you, and follow you?
So I'm on every platform imaginable, from Tumblr. I'm on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. YouTube, have a YouTube channel, obviously IG, Facebook page that I have that's starting to gain some traction. And then you can hear me on every podcast. So every podcast place out there, Apple Podcasts, you have Google Podcasts, Red Circle's my main hosting site that I use for my podcast, but I'm literally on Stitcher, everything you could think of that host podcast. My episode is on, because I tried to get it through, even iHeart. I've tried to throw a wide net,
Okay.
so people can pick my episodes up no matter what. But yeah, it's been fun. I'm glad we got to have an open conversation without having to go back and forth and screaming at each
Of
other.
course not. Of course not. That gets us
It's
nowhere.
it gets us nowhere. But listen, I appreciate the hustle that you have, that you're trying
Thank
to,
you.
trying to find different things that you want to do. And I'd love to come back on the show at some point.
Thank you so much. I would love to have you anytime. And last but not least, a dream guest that I personally would love to see on your podcast would be Charlemagne the God. Because I love
Yeah,
the Breakfast Club, any one of them, Angela Yee, DJ Envy,
Angela is actually
Charlemagne.
off the show now, though.
Right. So she's
Yeah,
available to reach. I got a chance to meet her in person.
nice.
She came to George Washington University for an event from the NAACP event. And I got a chance to meet her. So cool, so chill. Like, I asked her who her favorite guest was on the Breakfast Club, and she said Keke Palmer. She's like, oh, I saw Keke last week. Like, she's chill, she's cool. And I'm just like, I was shocked by how chill she was. So, if you get a chance to have one of them on, I think it would be super cool.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much for joining me.
No problem. Take it easy, folks.